In this video, I'm going to try and cover just the main points of the Duke of Edinburgh expedition. I will also include links for videos that will go through how to pack your backpack and do the food in more detail. So I'm going to be quite brief and skip over a lot of things, and I've also included the main points in the letter. So I'm going to go through times and dates, the rules of the expedition, the school equipment we give you, the personal equipment you need to bring, how the groups work, how the food works, and how phones work. So let's start with times and dates. So we will give you some equipment, backpacks, tents, stoves, things like that, a week to 2 weeks before we set off. So you've got time to get it all packed. On the Friday, please arrive at school no later than 8:30. We've got a few things to get sorted in the morning, just make sure everything's in order. Then we aim to be on a coach by 9 and off to the start point. You'll walk through the day, we'll check in and out on you through the day, and you'll arrive at Crabbe in the evening. You'll sleep the night there. On Saturday morning, you'll wake up way earlier than you think you're going to wake up, probably about 6 a.m. when the sun comes up, and you'll cook some breakfast and start walking again. You'll generally get back to school between 12 and 2 p.m. At that point, we will return the phones to you so you can call your parents to come and get picked up. Before you go, though, you'll need to reset your tent up just out the back of the DT area. That gives it a chance to just air out and dry. You also need to check your stove back in, return the first aid kit, and we'd also like you to bring someone a hold all or bin bag so you can empty out the backpacks at that point as well. That just saves you having to sort of lug them in the following week. And at that point, you are free to go. Okay, there are some expedition rules. There are more than these, but these are the main ones. There is no sort of set distance you have to cover or anything like that. It's more about effort than it is covering a certain distance. But we cover way more than the set distance. But you must be self-sufficient. That means you cannot buy food on the route and you cannot be given extra food on the route. We can give you water, but this is not some sort of, fun run or something like that. Do not expect to be met sort of every couple of miles with someone handing out water. That's not going to happen. There's water normally about halfway along the route when you get to St. John's. So you need to be carrying lots. It's going to be 3-4 hours before we top your water up. You cannot use a phone unless it's an emergency, and I'll go over that later on. It is absolutely fine to get lost along the route. As long as you're safe, it's fine. If you're not safe, you use your emergency phone and you get in touch with us. But getting lost is not going to fail you. That's absolutely fine. And in fact, if you get lost, we won't necessarily come and find you. We want you to sort that out yourself. Don't drop litter. Don't be rude to people. Those are the kind of things that will get you sent home. Do not rush. Take your time. Enjoy it. You're going to be going along some lovely bits of the North Coast. Take your time. Be safe at all times, and the main area where we have concerns over safety and have to remove people from the expedition sometimes is just their general road safety. We will never be on any busy roads. We'll only ever be on sort of green lanes and paths. If you do find yourself on a busy road, though, make sure you are absolutely safe. One of the main rules as well is you always stay with your group. If anybody wanders off or splits from their group, that would also fail you and get you sent home, so please don't do it. Okay, we will give you lots of equipment, and like I said, we'll give you this about a week beforehand. We will also spend some time on the sort of couple of periods, probably on the Monday, just training you how to use this equipment as well. Most of you will know it's very good equipment. It's all very nice and new. So you will get a tent, you will get a sleeping mat, you will get a backpack, a stove and a map, and also a first aid kit, although we tend to give out the first aid kits on the Friday when we depart. Now, your own personal equipment, you need to bring your own food, you need to bring your own water, you need to bring your own sleeping bag. If you have any problems getting a sleeping bag, you don't need anything special, just a 3-season sleeping bag. I would just pop into Mountain Warehouse or Blacks. You get 20% off or something like that in Blacks if you've got a DofE card, or just take your any sort of logbook or letter from school to prove that you're doing DofE, and they should give you a discount. You only need a 3-season sleeping bag. That's absolutely fine. If you feel the cold, just wear some thermals or something like that to keep you warm overnight. You need a waterproof. So the red jacket is a waterproof. You can take a puffer jacket, but if we set off on Friday and it's raining, and we will set off in the rain, we're not going to cancel the expedition because it's raining. You get wet for half an hour, you're going to be wet probably for the next 2 days because you probably won't dry out. You need some shoes. The ideal shoes are these walking boots, sort of walking shoes. I would not buy walking boots. If you do a lot of walking, you have walking boots, absolutely, but don't buy walking boots and you're just going to get horrible blisters. Also, don't buy anything sort of the week beforehand. So these are great because they stop all the sort of stones that you're going to be walking on poking up through the bottom of your feet. The sort of Nike Air Force sort of thin sort of shoes, they're about the worst thing you could wear because all the sort of stones push up through the soles of the shoes. Plus, you're going to ruin them. You're going to absolutely trash them. So I wouldn't wear anything like that. Normal sort of thick running shoes or something like that, they are absolutely fine. It must be a sort of closed shoe. You can't do this in Crocs or flip-flops or something like that. We just wouldn't let you do it. It'd be dangerous. If you get blisters, sort of know where you get blisters, and if you're prone to it, either wear 2 thin pairs of socks or put sort of K-tape or plasters on before you actually set off. You're going to need some warm clothes for the evening. You are going to be out all night, so you are probably going to feel chillier than if you just pop out at night from your home and then come back again. Yeah, you've got no real way of getting warm other than climbing in your sleeping bag. Bring spare t-shirts, socks, underwear. You need some sort of torch. It is going to be on a dark campsite. There's no outdoor lighting there. When the sun goes down, the sun goes down. Head torches are great, but you don't have to go out and get anything special. Please do bring a wash kit. There are no showers, but, there are sinks, there are toilets, there is water. So, as a minimum, brush your teeth. And, as a courtesy to the rest of your group, maybe put a bit of deodorant in. You can always share deodorant between your group as well if you want to keep the weight down. You need something to eat your food with. Now, you don't need to bring a mug if you don't like a hot drink, but if you do like a hot drink, bring a mug along or something like that. I'll go through the sort of, fork plate situation. You can sort of lighten that. You can just eat out of the pans if you want. Now, as much as you can't bring your phone to take photos on, you could bring some sort of disposable camera, or if any of you have a sort of GoPro or similar or something like that, you're welcome to bring things like that. Okay, this is how the groups work. So you must walk in a group of 4 to 7 people. That's based on sort of safety. Any bigger than that as well, it's not really enjoyable. You will all walk together. So let's imagine we're a group of 5 people. You would walk together as a group of 5 throughout the day. When you get to the campsite at the end of the day, you will have been given 2 tents. You would have been given a 2-man tent and a 3-man tent. 2 of you will go into the 2-man tent. 3 of you will go into the 3-man tent. This is where you will cook your hot meal together. So remember, you've bought your own lunch, you bring your own breakfast, you bring your own food for the second day. But the hot meal in the evening, you need to plan with the other members of your, what we're going to call the tent group. So you have a walking group. Within that walking group, you'll be split into tent groups. So if you're 2 people together, you'll have your pasta and tomato sauce or whatever you fancy. Like I say, we'll spend some time showing you some of the different meals you can cook, and you will cook that together. The other 3 members of your group will also group together, and they will cook a meal as well. You must cook a hot meal. You can't just bring a sort of something like a pre-cooked pizza and have it cold or something like that. That's one of the DofE rules, that you must cook a hot meal in the evening. Pot noodle does not count as a hot meal. By all means, bring one as a starter, but I will not count that as cooking a hot meal. And you'll just have a miserable day the following day if that's all you're going to sort of eat. You really are going to get very, very hungry on this. Okay, food. Now, there is a much more detailed video I've done on what sort of things you can bring for food. But just broadly, remember, at least 1.5 litres of water. Again, when you get to the campsite at the end of the day, you can refill that. You don't need to use your water to boil the pasta or anything like that. There's unlimited water on the campsite. But on the Friday, make sure you have a really good breakfast. This is what you're going to be walking on through the day. So Friday, you need lunch and lots of snacks to just sort of snack on as you go. So bring a packed lunch, but don't put it in a lunchbox, because then you've got to carry a lunchbox around with you for the next 2 days. Hot meal in the evening. I mean, the classic is pasta and sort of tomato sauce. Don't bring glass jars. Just use one of the sort of Dolmio packet things or those sort of tubs that you just sort of stir in. They're great. Don't bring a 500-gram bag of pasta between two of you. You only need half of it. So empty it out into a Ziploc bag or something like that. Yeah, you don't need to carry all that. A waste of time. Plus, it will just boil over in the pan. You'll make a mess everywhere. By all means, bring sort of some sort of cake or something like that for dessert. Bring more food than you think you're going to need. Avoid tin cans and glass jars because they might break and go all over your sleeping bag, which would be pretty nasty. And they're also just really heavy as well. Okay, on the Saturday when you wake up, you need some sort of breakfast. You've still got a lot of walking to do on the Saturday. I think the best breakfast you can probably do is one of the sort of pots of porridge where you just add hot water. There's no, at the end of the day, you eat out of the pot, so you haven't created any dishes or something like that. So you can kind of cook that, pack your tent away, off you go. But equally, if you don't like porridge, you can bring some cereal and some milk or something like that. You'd have to bring UHT milk or something, so I wouldn't overly recommend that. It's also very heavy. But breakfast bars, croissants, pan of chocolate, anything like that. Again, you're probably going to want more than you think you want. You've got a stove, you can boil water if you want a cup of tea or coffee or hot chocolate in the morning. You've got time to do that. That's fine. For lunch, now, you could sort of pre-pack sandwiches the day before. They're probably going to be a bit sort of icky by the second day. So a good idea is something like pita bread. It's already squashed. It doesn't matter if it gets squashed anymore. Some sort of jam or honey or something like that. Just at this point, because I was about to recommend something like Nutella, but we are a nut-free school. So by all means, bring some sort of chocolate spread, but not one with any traces of nuts in, please. The last thing we want is someone having some sort of allergy when we're stuck on a campsite and not as close to help as we might like to be. Again, plenty of snacks and things like that for day 2. And I would absolutely back up all your day 2 food in a separate bag so you don't touch it till day 2. I've come across plenty of people who have had a miserable trip because they ate all their food on day 1 and they just totally underestimated how much food they were going to get through. Probably double what you would normally eat in a day. You also need some sort of emergency rations, just some sort of chocolate bar. Bury it at the bottom of your pack or something like that. Get it out if you have an emergency. Right, phones. It's against the rules to use a phone on the expedition. That's a school rule and that's a DofE rule. Talk to each other. It's fun. If you don't hand a phone in the morning, we won't be letting you leave. You need to have a phone on the expedition that we will look after. So if at any point you need to get in touch with home, you've got your phone there that you can turn on and you can get in touch with them. Each group will select one person who will turn off their mobile phone. There's no point leaving it turned on because the battery will go flat. And if you have an emergency later in the day when the battery's flat, that's going to be of absolutely no use to you. It goes in a sealed up plastic bag. So at the end of the expedition, you show us that it's still sealed in the plastic bag and you haven't had access to it. But you have that just in case of an emergency. We will give you the school mobile phone number, which I will have on me. So if you have any sort of problems at any point where you think you need to get in touch with us, take the phone out of its bag and phone us. We will come and find you and help you or do whatever we need to do. And I'll just reiterate, everybody needs to hand in their phone on the Friday before we go. We are not letting you leave until you've handed that phone in. Please don't turn up on the day and say you left it at home. So, like I said, there's a couple of other videos that go into how to pack the backpack and more on food that I'll put in there. Any questions, please email me via the school office.